Welcome, everybody. This is Tim with Wholesaling PPC. Welcome to have one of my best clients here, Vance Courtney. I've been working with him since, was it December
Yeah,
or so?
December. Yeah.
December,
Yeah.
so about 4 months now. And he agreed to hop on the call with me. I'm super excited for him to share his results with PPC and just some information about what's working and not working and a little bit of background here. So you know that if you guys have seen my content before, I'm all about PPC and I talk about how it works for me, but I do it for Tom and a lot of his tribe and really wanted to share some of the results that they're getting too. So welcome, Vance. Thanks for hopping on the call with me today, man.
I know. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, dude. So can you just tell us a little bit about, what your background is? I would love to know kind of why you got started in real estate and a little bit about your business.
Yeah, sure. Classic worked the 9 to 5, came across a rental property and thought it was great with an 8% ROI and realized that it wasn't as good of a deal as I'd hoped. And I'm like, where are people sourcing these deals? And so that's what began the wholesaling journey of like, oh, I want to learn how to source deals. And then when I realized that the business can be, serve me, so to speak, I've completely gone in and just focused on now wholesaling as a business, and almost dropped completely the, I want to keep acquiring and also flipping or doing any of that interest. So that's kind of what started it. And I find it very interesting, the whole business itself.
Dude, that's awesome. So how long
Yeah.
ago did you acquire your first rental and start getting into wholesaling or deciding you wanted to
Yeah.
get into that?
Yeah, so I picked up like a rental in it was November of 18, and then I learned more about wholesaling in around January of 19, and really actually started doing it probably March of 2019.
Yeah, that's crazy. You're
And
you're pretty fairly new, I would say, huh?
yeah, yeah, oh, absolutely. Like I don't claim like, and yeah, absolutely, definitely. Compared to the guys that have been doing it for 10, 20 years, about a year in, and now looking to grow by adding different channels like PPC for sure.
Dude, that's awesome. So do you still work at your 9 to 5, or are you in a transition period, or have you let it go?
Yeah.
Or
So I'm one of those lucky few that actually really enjoys what I do in the 9 to 5 in the tech industry and whatnot. So I never did this to like, I want to quit because I actually enjoy it. So it's turned side hustle, turned business where I've actually got somebody who's doing the acquisition, some admin and a cold caller kind of thing going on. So yeah, I mean, I'm just doing what I actually enjoy.
dude, I love that so much.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know a lot of people are in our industry are all about, quitting the 9 to 5. And I'm definitely a fan of doing that. I used to work at a newspaper company, 4 or 5 years ago, and then they ended up laying me off and I ended up just taking that, burning the bridges and getting into wholesaling. So for me, it was a blessing in disguise, but right
Yeah.
now, full disclosure, like I work with Carrot a lot. I know I've talked about them a lot and stuff. And I work there not because I have to, but I just enjoy it as well.
See?
It's a lot of fun. So there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that, man.
No, that's the whole truth to wealth building. Multiple, different streams. Just making sure you enjoy what you're doing. What are you spending your time on that you enjoy? And yeah, that's the secret. So don't let anybody else know.
Dude, I love that so much. So, is wholesaling right now your primary, business for real estate? Are you doing flipping and rentals too? Is it mainly wholesaling?
100% wholesaling. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. And what kind of marketing are you doing? I mean, what has allowed you to kind of take your business, from start? Now it's been, almost a year or over a year now. What
Yeah.
kind of marketing channels are you doing? Can you kind of break it down how you're sourcing your deals?
Yeah, sure. 100% has been direct mail until just recently. Then we added PPC and cold calling at the same time. Kind of a mistake. I'd always recommend adding one channel at a time. So we actually stopped the cold caller to focus on this PPC, which, to be honest, is really, really hands off when you have somebody who's doing it right. So that's one thing I'll say is it's just nice to be able to look at the numbers and make sure I'm not just throwing money all over the place. So that was the biggest thing. So just adding one channel. So direct mail 100% was what was working for us in our market in Augusta, Georgia.
Dude, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
we do have a lot of clients who worked. One of my first clients, my sister, actually. Hopefully, I'll get her on sometime here. But she, works 9 to 5, and she has a lot of kids, and she's kind of stay at home and
Yeah.
takes care of her kids a lot. She's pretty busy, and PPC ended up being great for her, just because the leads that come in are pretty high quality.
Yep.
So the acquisition burden is very low, right? The lead management burden, I guess, is very low. You don't really need to pay
Yeah.
someone to do it if you don't want. If you already have that set up for your direct mail and stuff, that's great. But it's not a ton like, for instance, maybe cold calling or even Facebook leads. You can get 50, 60 leads in without converting, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's bad or the ROI is bad, but it takes a lot of time and a lot of lead management bandwidth to do something like that.
Yeah, 100% PPC is our favorite lead type, just because the conversion is much higher. Like they're super motivated, and it's hands down our favorite lead.
Dude, I love it. Yeah, when the
Yeah.
PPC leads come in, you better
Oh
get on
yeah.
that lead quick, right?
Speed, yeah, speed. Like I kid you not, we've had a moment where we were on the appointment and somebody was getting a call and a text from somebody else, but we were there. So like speed, don't. Yeah, that's the truth. That's the nature of the game for PPC.
Love it, dude. Love it. So we're definitely dive into a little bit about some numbers here, but
Yeah,
I do like talking about kind of the back end purpose of like why we're all doing this, right? Because a lot of us are in the same business, especially wholesaling, to get like freedom, right? More freedom in our life, whether it's financial freedom or freedom of our time, or there's a bunch of different things. So I know you're still working at your job that you love right now, but has your life changed at all, or lifestyle changed at all after getting into wholesaling,
yeah,
since a year ago?
100% actually. I was actually debating leaving my job, mainly because of all that, what you hear about it. But my wife and I are actually doing this business together. So this is what's crazy is about a year ago, I was looking to quit, and then found out my wife was actually super interested, and we kind of weighed out who would want to quit. Well, she doesn't like her company. She didn't like what she did. She didn't care for, and I liked all the other stuff. And I just, you know what I mean, became the short straw. And so she actually was able to quit her job. So this has already started to prove what we want, which is that financial freedom and time freedom, right? I have a lot of flexibility in my personal job and the company I work for, and she didn't. And now we're able to both attend all the events with our kids. Like during this right now, like doing the homeschooling, we have that flexibility. So the whole like quitting the 9 to 5, one of us already got to do that, and now we both get that mass flexibility while still providing that revenue.
Dude, that is amazing. I
Yeah.
love that. That's what I live for. That's even why, I have a wholesaling business. I didn't need to necessarily start a PPC agency business, but I am super passionate about helping others not just get deals. I mean, that's fine, but at the end of the day, that's what we want more is like freedom. And hearing stories
Hmm.
like that is, really fills me up. That's really what it's all about for me, and helping other investors achieve that. For myself too, wholesaling has given me the freedom to work, as many or as little hours as I want and kind of do what I want. It's changed my life, and I'm such a huge fan of it. And I'm glad that you
Yes.
are as well, man. That's amazing.
Same thing. Yeah, I love it. Yep.
So what's the next step for you guys? Do you have any other kind of future, lifestyle goals or any other kind of life improvements that you want to make? I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I mean, we actually just reviewed our goals. So like, the joke being is, for wholesaling, my whole intent for 2019, I always like to put what's called an exit strategy, like a quit
Mm,
time. So I was like, well, is this wholesaling business going to be a thing? So I said, all right, let me give myself 6 actual months, which I really kind of gave 9, but 6 months, I have to make at least $1 profit, like pure profit, and it's got to be a dollar or more. I did much more than $1, so it allowed me to make the decision to continue in 2020. And so now we're setting these goals for revenue generation, where we're now in that like growth phase where I still want to maintain, about a 40% minimum uh, net revenue while growing to 500K gross, and then I want to again go one more level up for the following year. And the whole intent is so it provides the true flexibility and freedom so we can actually move. Like that's actually our next step, is to do more virtual and team management, so that way I'm not stuck in this location, because that's the next step of freedom. Do I have
mm.
to be here? I like my job, but my job does kind of force me to stay here. Can I go do this in anywhere else? And that's our next step for like true freedom, right? That you want.
Dude, I love that, man. So that's a good
uh,
segue. Let's dive in. So what market are you currently in? Can you just give a little bit of background on that?
yeah, sure. So we're in the Augusta, Georgia. It's the second largest city. Most people don't know it in Georgia unless you're familiar with like the Masters, the golf tournament. About a 500,000, give or take, population size for the metro area.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. And so the reason why I ask it is super important, right? Knowing which what your market is like, right? Because one thing I found for PPC is a lot of people fail at it because they don't have the right expectations set for their market. And I know this is something that we talked about back
Yeah.
in December. Is relatively, and we only work with one investor per market, right? So we're kind of picking choosy about which market we kind of go into, right? So
Yeah.
for Vance's case in Augusta, it is somewhat of a smaller market, right? Population about 500,000. When we do our targeting, we like to stay pretty specific and targeted. Like with, direct mail, you can do super broad targeting or you can do super narrow targeting. It's similar with PPC, and we try to stay fairly narrow with our targeting. So when talking to Vance, it was almost like, I don't say borderline, but we probably personally wouldn't go too much smaller than Vance's market. Is probably kind of near the end versus something like Miami or Dallas, which population is like a couple million people, right? So, have being in a smaller market, is there anything that you've done, whether it's maybe not just PPC, but with direct mail or other things, to have you noticed any type of difference in strategy or anything with your marketing being in a smaller market? And again, if it's not, maybe you haven't, but just curious.
Yeah, so I actually expected the opposite of what happened, which I don't know if I'm jumping ahead here, but like I kind of expected a long time for PPC to really start taking effect, just because I figured it's a smaller market, right? The demographics, I would imagine vary by the cities or areas or metro areas, right? And so I was kind of concerned, like, okay, is my budget going to be big enough? Am I going to get the leads, et cetera, and then converting those. And then of course, direct mail, it's like another one of those things, like you go look at Phoenix, right? Like direct mail for some, it's like, or even California, for brand new people, it takes so much to get that momentum. But people that have already done it, they say it still works because they got that momentum working up. So even if they're spending, we're sending out 30,000 mailers a month versus cold calling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is another tactic where it's like you're doing this mass spraying and trying to bring it in. So it's different styles of lead. And in our market, we're looking at all the channels work. Now, I still think all the channels work in every market. It just depends. Again, what do you want to spend? What is all the costs associated, right? And the momentum. Does it take 3 to 6 months before they fall off?
Yep, gotcha. Yeah,
all
San
that kind of stuff.
Francisco is going to be really different. You can still do direct mail, but
Yeah,
it's going to cost you a lot of money, dude.
yeah, exactly. And then of course the deals are bigger, so that's where I'll notice. And it's not that I would say like it's a mindset thing here. It's just the home values are less, so it's a little bit harder when homes are like $40,000-$50,000 total value when people are shooting for 50,000 assignment. So like I can kind of see where it's a little bit more
Gotcha.
difficult here. Yeah, so I don't expect the assignments. I mean, we're shooting for big, so don't get it wrong. Our minds are set for that, but our size is probably just a little bit smaller than the national average, but we're still doing well.
Yeah, so let's dive into it. It's a good,
Yeah.
segue into the numbers. So, can you just talk about, what your average assignment fee is, if you don't mind sharing that, and maybe what your
Yeah.
cost per deal is, being in your market. And again, this is something that there might be debate on, and I don't know. I even struggle with my own business. Is you kind of have to run your business based on averages in a way. Like we have an average profit, and you can see trends, especially running marketing for clients all across the country. We see different trends in what, like the more expensive markets have higher assignment fees, and the lower end markets maybe a little bit lower. I'm in Delaware. Our average assignment fee is around $8,000, which is probably relatively lower, maybe. So there is something to be said for taking into account your market, but at the same time, what influence does having an amazing sales system, an amazing acquisition system play into it? And I struggle with that, and I would even love your just candid opinion on it. Is would you say having a what impacts it more, like a great sales and lead management acquisition system, or the market itself? Which one impacts the assignment fee amount? What would you say?
Yeah. 100%. I think it would be the conversion, because it's the mindset of like, can I get this? Can I do this? And then are you actually offering, like, as Tom Kroll kind of says, like, it's got to be in your belly low, so to speak. And so we have like, we set this, however everybody wants to like calculate it, but we have our max allowable offer. And of course you always anchor lower. And
Right.
we've had a case or two where they said, okay, to the lower price. And we're sitting here like, like, wow, that actually works. So again, it's the mindset. Instead of like your max allowable offer, you may already feel low, but you just got to get in that habit of that negotiation, if you call it that. So I definitely think it's a conversion. I think lead generation, we have so much great data that everybody's in a collaborative environment that you should be able to generate leads one way or another, whether it's through time or money. Like direct mail, as an example, it's more of a money than a time. If you're going to be able to cold call or even door knock, like go up for the pre-foreclosures and door knock, now you're spending your time to get the money, right? So I definitely think when it comes to the sizes, conversion, I think is huge. And we can see that from when we first started the first few deals. And then like, as we went on, we started getting bigger deals. Cause like we started putting into that process and believing in it,
No, I love that. 100%,
Yeah.
100%. So yeah, let's go back to the numbers a little bit. So
Sure.
can you break down? I derailed you a little bit, but what
Yeah. Sure.
what kind of numbers are you seeing in your own business in terms of profit and cost per deal?
Yeah, sure. So right now, I can go over like pretty much 2019 as a good overall whole the last 1 year. Is average deal size for us is 10,198, so a little over 10,000. Our cost per deal is $957. So we have like,
Awesome.
yeah. So our ROI, that's funny, I had to double check it. It was like 1,065%. So like, which is really good. So we didn't. Our average lead per deal is 50. So this is where the conversion, I'm hoping to see an improve on that we can convert more deals with the same leads, right? Um, and so we've done 30 deals, and again, just kind of going through some of the numbers that I just quickly see here. You know that in this for 2019, we had to send out like 60,000 mailers, and then we had a 2.48 response rate. And so now I know that
Pretty
to
good.
get a deal, right? Once you know these numbers, this comes down to really knowing it. Like it's 2,028, but 2,000 mailers per deal. So if I really want to get 4 deals a month, I know I've got to scale that up to 8,000, 10 to 10,000 mailers, as long as my conversion stays the same and everything else being weighed in. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at for our market. So a little bit less than the classic 15K, but we can do more volume as well. So
Dude, so it sounds like, I mean, that's amazing. Spending 1,000 to make 10, like that's better than my own business. I think that's amazing. So what made you want to get into other marketing channels instead of just tripling or quadrupling down on your direct mail? Why even go into like PPC at all in the first place?
yeah, so that's a really good point. So it's kind of okay. I had these lists and I started going out. It's actually the reason why I'm scaling back. Excuse me, because I actually added, like I said earlier, cold calling, but that actually includes texting, and that was like a couple weeks. I'm like, okay, I'm doing way too much, and started to scale back. The only reason why I didn't actually remove PPC and just go purely back to direct mail is because they're hand in hand with the idea of like outbound versus inbound. So like it generates leads inbound, and we have a good process for
Hmm.
handling inbound leads. So it was a really good yin and yang. I also think, I don't know, but I want to be more prepared if the industry starts to shift more toward the digital versus the mailing, right? For now, mailers still work in our market, so I want that. But I just don't want to be a one trick kind of pony, so to speak, in case it shifts. I want to have an option. But again, it does come down to ROI, which is very high for mailers, surprisingly. And so we actually are now fine tuning that and kind of looking at more lists, you know what I mean, to try and get more on that and maybe recycling it. So we're still ironing out our process because we're very, very like new, like a year into this. So we're now trying to get those processes down much better in the system. So
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see with the whole, at the time of recording, we're all in the shutdown right
yeah,
now. So, I'm curious to see how it's going to play out in the consumer behavior. Will it lead to more, online marketing because people are at
yeah,
home, being on their phones and computers 24/7 anyway? We'll see. I'm not a
yeah,
prophet. I really have no idea what's going to happen. Maybe it'll make a huge difference. Maybe it won't make any.
yeah.
I don't know. But speaking of which, for everyone watching it now, in the shutdown in the coming months, have you noticed anything, in your business that has changed, or maybe that you've seen that's been different, or anything that you're doing differently in the shutdown?
Yeah, absolutely. More of a focus on the buyer side than the sellers. We're seeing higher motivation, but right at this time, we're looking like, around April timeframe, just rough idea. We're not seeing the motive, like we're seeing higher motivation, but not a movement on the price from the sellers. And that's because the market hasn't really represented that. If there is a turn, we don't know if there's going to be a shift at all. However, the buyers are prepared for the shift. So they're already wanting that discounted rate for the future mark that the sellers don't see. So I think we have a little bit more of a disparity there. Like like there's not as much of a gap as there used to be. However, from the buyer side, we have less newer buyers, but
Hmm.
we're having those consistent like big buyers are putting in more offers. So our offers are about the same. It's just now it's consistent from the same people more than it is on newer investors willing to take the risk or not. So
Oh, I see.
so that's what we're seeing is, and the other guys are wanting that deeper number. So they're like, hey, we know our numbers. We want to hear, we know what risk they're willing to offset, So
So it's
that's what
more
we're seeing.
concentrated, the
Yeah,
buyers.
exactly. And so we're also paying more attention. So we actually have, as funny as it is, a little like kind of checkbox in our buyer list now that we've had it called the Corona effect, where it's like, are they still buying during this time or not? Because that
Hmm.
allows us to know like, okay, let's focus. And again, it used to be easy where you could just send out an email, right? And you can just send out a text and you'll be done, and your buyers will all come this way. Well, now there's that factor. So now you got to talk to them and you got to learn and remember that they're, you're almost serving a product to a client, so to speak. And that's exactly it. So it's still a business model. It's not, just as simple as get something under contract anymore. So.
Gotcha. So how has that impacted approaching sellers? If the buyers want discounts and you're saying the sellers, maybe aren't taking that consideration yet, has it changed at all in your, acquisition process?
No, so for the process, we just more or less bring up why. The same reasons that they have, we relay that. So they already know that we work with investors and we're very honest with how we operate our business. So we let them know that a lot of times we sell to an investor for profit and use those words. And we explain, though, why we will need it lower and explain that it's unknown for the market. And so for the investors, it's unknown. So it's at a lower rate. And then we let time and we follow up. We don't do pressure. If they're ready to sell and we've got a problem to solve, great. But if there isn't a problem to solve, then there's no value to bring. So we got to bring that value pretty heavily. I think we've seen a couple where it's like the tenants, with the whole moratorium on you can't evict, you can't do that. That's becoming a problem for some of these. So it's like, I'm not getting rents, but I still have to pay. So we solve that problem by saying, hey, we'll take those on, no problem. And that's because investors know they're going to get the rents eventually one way or another, right? They understand that wait and patient game. So
it's just factored in, whatever the eviction cost is, factored into the price, right?
Right, exactly. And that's exactly. But the question is, how much stress are you relieving from the seller, right? You really are get paid by the value you give, right? It's you may think, oh, it's only $1,000 or $2,000, but it is that stress that you're helping them out. You are truly helping that seller out. If you have that mindset, you really you kind of go through that,
And no one else is going to do it except for the investors. No one's going to buy a property right now with a tenant in place who's not paying, except for us.
Yeah, exactly. And there's people I know that are actually changing their model from a fix and flip to only buy and hold with tenants in place.
It's crazy.
I'm kidding you not. It's mind blowing. I just got off a call yesterday with somebody that was like that, and I was like, okay.
Dude, I appreciate you sharing that, man. I think it's going to help a lot of people. So you just to kind of going to recap, you're killing it with direct mail. You've seen some shifts, with the shutdown, but you're doing PPC to kind of make sure you're on top of future trends and that you're prepared if the market shifts and not to be kind of a one-trick pony there. Can you share some of the numbers with PPC and maybe how the PPC leads have changed or how they are different than your other marketing channels?
Yeah, sure. So to be honest, I didn't expect to get a deal for 6 months. I wanted time, it had to build up, but we actually got our first deal within 30 days. That was surprisingly, it was awesome. So right now for the cost, let me pull it up real quick because I actually have all the numbers up. Excuse me. We've done 2 deals so far. And we have a total of 22 leads that we've generated since December. So in the last 4 months, which is pretty good. Sorry for all these almost
no worries,
campaign here. Yeah,
22 leads. So 2 deals. That's 1 deal out of every 10 leads, which most marketing channels, I don't know about you, but what do you average current leads per deal with your other marketing channels?
So yeah, exactly. It's 50 leads per deal. So it's it's like night and day. Our total cost for the marketing was $3,300. I added a couple other things for my total cost, but again, so 50% or so for the sorry, I'm pulling this up. Yeah, so we done 2 deals, one at 3,000. It took a second to load. One at 3,000, one at 5,000. So our deal size has been smaller, but both one of those deals, but both from one of those deals, there was a higher offer than ours, and they went with us because of the rapport that we were able to build. We knew we could connect, a buyer. So we couldn't get it as deep because again, and I don't know if that's how it plays out. And I'm still learning the numbers for PPC. Maybe it is lower, like you were saying. You're sitting right around 8, and that's, your primary marketing channel is PPC. But for our cost per lead, there it is. $665 is what the total cost per lead. So it's even cheaper than direct mail for the cost.
Oh, you mean
per
cost
lead.
per deal there?
Yeah, no, cost. Yeah, cost per lead is $665 because we got the 22 leads, and then we have a 10 conversion because 2 of the 22 close.
Dude, Awesome, dude. So what is
Yeah.
the overall return? So you spent, a few $1,000s, like you spent like 3 and made 8 or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I didn't have right offhand. I apologize for that. I should have like
No, dude,
grabbed
it's
those.
I threw
Yeah,
you on the spot
but
here. It's
for the
okay.
marketing spend, right? It's like 2 to 3 times return on that. So
Yeah.
uh, I'm always looking for at least one in, one out at a minimum. Like if I put it in, I want to. If I can double my money, that'd be fantastic. Like that's would be great. And we exceeded what we set as a standard. And that's one thing I like about you is you put that expectation like, hey, is this up to X amount you're willing to spend on ads? And we're not even hitting that right now.
Yeah.
And we're still converting. And he's like, what would you call a success? Like, this is what I like that you do. Whether people go with you or not, this is like great advice when you're looking at what you should be looking for from somebody in the PPC. Because I've talked to a handful of different agencies. Is
Mhm.
definitely want to find out the cost, but like what expectations are they setting? Because if you say I've got like a $10,000 a month spending ads, I mean they'll spend it. I mean Google will spend it for you really quick. Like if you throw out
Yeah.
money, they'll find a way to make sure you'll get that spent. But I want to process and a flow, and that's what I like about you is you set expectations, and we've been exceeding them. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, dude, it's huge when we've been working with clients for, over a year now, coming a year and a half. And that's something we definitely put in place is setting expectations because we've worked with a lot of people and their campaigns actually work well. But because they're expecting a 10x return, maybe because that's what their RBMs are doing or
Yeah,
something, and they don't get that, then they're not satisfied. But it really is different. And every market is different, every business is different, and the way you set up your acquisition system is all different, and it all plays into
yeah,
into how much money you're going to make. But we see on average like 3 to 4 times your money is pretty average. That's what we do. You're a little under that right now, but you've only been doing it 4 months, so we
yeah. Just
expect
getting
it to pick
started.
up too. But yeah, that's great. I know it's funny when we every person we talk to, and you're no exception, we say, hey, look, you can get a deal in the first 30 days, but don't expect it. Like we do not
Yeah,
promise to get a deal within 30 days. And I think
yeah,
PPC has that kind of myth that, oh, I'm going to get a deal right away with pay-per-click. And the reason that we don't commit to that is because it does start out slower. PPC takes time to
hmm,
build momentum with your account, and it can take 60 days to get a deal. And we're not trying to bash PPC obviously in any way, but we're trying to set the
yeah,
expectation so after 30 days you don't get frustrated. It just so
yeah.
happened that you did get a deal, so it ended up working out anyway.
Yeah, yeah, no, that worked out really well. Like, yeah, another like random funny stat here is I had to double check again because it says like our appointment to contract days closed was like 0.5, so like it's less than a day because it's on that appointment we're getting it. Like we're not waiting any time, and I mean, granted, it is only a couple of deals, it is a small amount, but still for the last 4 months, like our lead to close dates 12 days. Like these guys, that's how motivated it is. There's very little follow up, very little like touch ups. It's like when they're calling, you're going to close. Like that's what I like about it. There's
Yeah,
no
and
like
that's
check and about. No, they're ready.
they're ready to go. And
Yeah,
it's a blessing, but it's also a responsibility, right? And it
yeah,
works for you because you have your systems down. But for people who are newer or don't have their lead management down, or maybe they just take the calls on their own a lot and they don't call them back for a few hours, that's
yeah,
not ideal for pay-per-click at all, because it is competitive. And if they're calling us, they may be calling competitors. Obviously we try
right.
to have that credibility in place so that they'll go with you potentially anyway, but you really have to be on them. And what you said is a testament to like call them back 5-10 minutes max. It's
Yeah,
so important.
yeah, just kind of look at it as like yourself. You're looking for a contractor. What do? It's the first one who picks up. It's the first one you're able to talk to. Like you're gonna go and get quotes, to get somebody to come down and like
Yep.
a plumber, right? You call one, even if it's the guy you like the most or the person you like the most. They don't pick up. You need it done. Like you got a leak, you go to the next one, and it's the one that picks up that normally you get the business. And it's the same principle here.
Dude, I love it, man.
Yeah.
So, we'll wrap it up here in a minute. But I know you said you talk to a lot of different agencies. So, we work with Tom, and obviously there are a ton of different PPC agency out there. So, how did you go about, like, what questions did you ask agencies when you talked to them, and how did you end up deciding to go with us versus all the other options out there?
Yep. So some of the things, well, first off, credibility. Who's referring to who? So be careful and just like, oh, I just saw somebody recommend on Facebook and you don't even know that connection, or somebody's reaching out to you do it through a DM. It's like, I actually don't
Yeah.
respond to those as often, right? So I actually evaluated ones that like like Cody Hoffman uses or Tom Crow uses. Go with a very reputable person that's shown a track record with the individual. So like obviously credibility with Tom Crow hands down already helped. And that's what it did, is allow us to have a conversation. Because then the next question is, why didn't I go work with say Cody's person or this, all these other highly reputable people that have great PPC.
Yeah.
But it also came down to when I asked about how you ran the model, right? So, hey, how do you test this? Ask questions like, how do they do the ad spend? What process do they have? Start talking to them and actually have a conversation where it's an interview both ways, not just them to you, right? Like your goal should be to filter out, like if they're just gonna again spend all the ads when you throw it out there and they don't have a structure or system in place, like we're actually gonna test this out. We're gonna scale up to that. Those are keywords I'm looking for. Like I don't even know the details, right? I just need to know like a general idea. And if you don't know what to look for, you can really Google the top 10 questions asked for an agency. And then what you do is you just interview at least 3 people, get the responses and start evaluating how they respond. You'll find the bad ones standing out from the good ones right away, right? And so that right there was it for me. And I like what really makes you stand out. And you got to ask this one question to anybody else who's looking at PPC. What's the percentage of the agents or their clients that are focused on wholesaling or real estate? You'll be surprised how many people are really good with PPC, but then they're like, yeah, 30% is real estate. That means they're not focused. Like I want that focused niche where they know that market and that's all they do. And then I want them to be in it, and you're in it. So like you're learning to adapt for your own business. So like Tom Crow, right? He's in the business. Great advice from a wholesaler who's actively doing this. So that's kind of like, are you eating your own bread? Like that whole principle. So those are a couple reasons why I went with you. But for anybody else, just make sure you're asking those same questions and kind of get it from a reputable source.
Dude, I love that. And for anyone wondering, the percent of our clients that are in wholesaling is 100%. We only work with wholesalers.
That right there. See, I'm telling you, man, it's awesome.
Were there any type of maybe hesitancies or concerns you had about starting PPC at all, regardless of the agency, but any kind of, objections you had?
Cost would be the biggest one, of course, right? Which is always there. So, and it's not, it's really the ad spend cost and getting ready to set that expectation. Make sure you have that budget ahead of time. If you're hoping for a deal and you think it's going to pay for it and you got to cut out, that's not going to help for the long game, because it is a momentum. So personally, like if it's your first time wholesaling, first time getting to do any kind of marketing, I don't think PPC is like the best way to go right off the bat. If you've never closed a deal, you're really going to dump money and you're not going to know how to convert. Once you've got any other channel, anything down, or you at least know how to convert and you've done sales and now you're just kind of getting into wholesaling and you want high quality leads, that's where I would go for. So I would shoot for that right there. So that's kind of like that segue, but that PPC, I'm telling you, that conversion, that it's there, right? But your agent matters the most as well. So even if you're doing it yourself, educate yourself.
Dude, I love that. 100% agree. We do work with some new people, but we're very hesitant and they really need to know their stuff. And most of the people that we do end up working with, PPC is really just like the way you have it is supplementary to everything else they're doing. They have a main channel and then PPC is kind of a supplementary addition to it. And that's, for my business, it is the main revenue, but we do SEO. We do a little bit of Facebook as well. So it's not just PPC. So I 100% agree with you there.
And this is why I'd go with him right there, because his whole business is reliant on PPC. So that was another sway on why I was chatting with you when I talked to you, right? Like, again, truth be told, his whole business is reliant on PPC. So like, if he's terrible at PPC, his whole business is gone. Like that right there. Yeah, exactly. He's got skin in the game, as the saying goes. So I love it.
Dude, 100%. Are there any, final thoughts here that you have? You shared amazing information and I greatly appreciate it. But for anyone who's on the fence about PPC or even someone newer to wholesaling in general, do you have any advice or last minute thoughts you want to share before we wrap it up here?
Yeah, if you've already got one channel, the next channel to add I would definitely would be PPC. It's one of the easiest to add in right into your system, especially if you're doing inbound. It really, really ties really well into direct mail if you're already doing it. And then again, go for connections and resources. Go check out REI Freedom and go see if Tim's recommended or not, in his company. Tom Kroll is using them. Like that's enough right there for validation, in my opinion. So go check them out. I personally would give them a call and try and get some more information to see if it's a fit.
Dude, love it, man. I appreciate it. I love chatting with you. I have a feeling this will be the first of many conversations with you, and I love to keep working with you and see how your business grows in 2020 through all the craziness that has happened.
Yeah, I know, right? Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Take care.
Bye.